Don't deselect yourself. Don't deselect yourself. You guys ever heard that term? Deselect. Somebody that deselects themselves. Somebody that deselects himself is somebody that removes himself from the selection process. Guys, for this video, I'm gonna share a story with you about RASP, the Ranger Assessment Selection Program, and about getting into the 75th Ranger Regiment. And I wanna, if you're not going into the military or you're not trying to get into SOF, that's okay. This video is going to be very applicable to you guys in the civilian life, if you have a W-2 job, or if you're a business owner. Okay? Because what's the common denominator in all three of those industries? It's you. It's the person. There's a person in every single one of those industries. It's a person in the military, a person in their W-2 job, a person that owns the business. And you guys are going to go through life and you're going to want something greater than your current circumstances, your current life. You're going to want the next thing. And it's going to be very, no matter how much success that you've gotten, it's going to be very challenging to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and go after what's inside of your heart. It always is. Okay? When I decided to get into the 75th, when I decided to apply and shoot my shot, I was indecisive. I was unsure. I didn't believe in myself. I had self-doubt. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I felt like an imposter. Think about that. Think about where you're trying to go next. Do you have those feelings, Do you have that feeling of being an imposter, feeling like a fraud, feeling like you're not good enough, not qualified enough to make that jump? Do you feel like you should just opt out and not even try because you're not the person for the job? Do you feel like tapping in advance, like quitting in advance? Because when I was a brand new infantry officer, I got to my first unit, and I was very, very fortunate to have a commanding officer that had served in the Ranger Regiment. So imagine having a mentor in your life that had been where you wanted to go. And I was fortunate because most of the other officers, the other commanding officers in the unit, they hadn't been there. And there was 3 or 4 other guys. And I could have got assigned underneath their leadership, but I didn't. I got very fortunate. I feel like that mentor's placement in my life was divine. I also feel like I was looking for a mentor, And the mentor arrives when the student is ready. The teacher arrives when the student is ready, and I was ready. So I remember I got to my first duty station as an infantry officer. I'd already been in the military for some years, but I commissioned. When you commission as an infantry officer, you go on to staff in your battalion. And so I went to Hawaii, and I went to 127 Wolfhounds, and I got stationed in beautiful Hawaii. When I got to my unit to staff, I was up there for just a couple of months, maybe a month or two. And I was up there doing admin stuff, and I was really hungry and ambitious to get down to the line. I finally got down there. After a couple months in on the job, my commanding officer, who became my mentor, he had served in the 75th, like I said, and later on in his career, he went on to serve in SMU, the Special Missions Unit. So he was a top guy, top dog. But after a few months into this new job, I had basically hit a milestone in my career, right? Some of you guys are doing that in your life right now. You're hitting a milestone, or you hit one and you feel maybe like you plateaued, or you're kind of like looking for what's next, and maybe you're seeking. So anyways, mentor comes into my life. A couple months on the job. I spent a couple months doing infantry platoon leader duties. And then he comes up to me and he tells me that he's going to he's going to go and train and do the Army's Best Ranger competition tryout. He says he's not interested in doing the Army's Best Ranger competition. He just wants to go do it for PT. He was that physically fit to where their tryout was like he wanted to test himself. And he wrote me in. I wasn't like an endurance guy at the beginning. I wasn't an endurance guy when I came into it as an infantry officer. I was like a failed wrestler meathead. That's what I was. And anyways, he had me go out with him, or he invited me out to go do the Best Ranger tryout. Something came up with his schedule last minute. He couldn't do it. So I was out there by myself with a couple other guys from our unit, and I did the Best Ranger tryout, and I made the team. I was surprised as hell. There's like 20 or 30 people that started it, and by the end there was like 13 of us. After another month, we were down to 9. So there's 9 of us that trained for the Army's Best Ranger teams in the 25th. And I was one of those guys. Well, we train up, and I start getting exposed to top-level people, highly competitive people, because that's who trains for Best Ranger. And I remember our training in Best Ranger was crazy, man. Monday morning, 6 a.m. was our start time. Our warm-up started at 06. And we would do our 20 minutes of warming up. We'd go on a 10-mile run, and then we'd turn around, put on a 10-mile, put a ruck on for 10 miles. And then we would go grab a bite, and then we'd go hit weights. And then we'd grab another bite, and then we'd go swim or do land nav. And we would train Monday, Wednesday, Friday for like 8 hours physically. And then Tuesday, Thursday, we did about 4 to 6 hours of training, physical training, and then we did a lot of hands-on training. That went on for months, but on that path, I met a lot of high-level people. I started getting exposed to operators. And so not only was my mentor an operator, but the guys that I was around was one. And so I started really stretching myself, and this is my point with the videos. I started stretching myself, getting around higher level people, higher level information. I started to wonder if maybe I could do something bigger and better with my life. Deep down inside, I wanted the next thing. I just was scared to tell anybody. I wanted to get into special operations, but I was scared to tell anybody. And I knew subconsciously, deep down, that I wasn't as consistent and disciplined as I needed to be. You know? A lot of times our fear comes from the fact that we know we have flaws that we haven't fixed. We're sleeping in. We're not being consistent Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're not dialed into the max. And so those hidden decisions that we make, the ones that we make behind closed doors when no one's watching, when you hit the alarm clock, you hit the snooze, you're subconsciously telling yourself that you don't follow through. So how the fuck could any of us believe we're going to do something great when we can't even do the small things right? So I had a little bit of that conflict going on inside of me. But my environment, these top level people that I was around, I kept seeing them, and they would start talking about special operations, you know? Some of the other guys on the team, they were talking about the Ranger Regiment. As we continued Best Ranger train up, I went to Georgia and some other places, some other military installations, and got exposed to 75th Rangers. And so I got more and more exposed into that environment, even though I was on the conventional side of the Army. Well, after Best Ranger, my commanding officer, he asked me if I was going to go to Regiment. And I had never told him that that's what I wanted to do. And when he asked me, I remember we were on a run, we were going up towards this mountain, I can't remember what it was, but it was in Schofield Barracks. And we were headed north, and we were headed up the mountain, and I remember him asking me, "Jay Saul, what do you think about going to the 75th?" And he was recruiting me for it. And I felt so honored that he was even asking me, but I was so scared to tell him, "Yeah, sir, I want to do it." But I didn't commit. I didn't commit verbally to him when he asked me. He asked what I thought about the 75th, and I said, "You know, sir, I'm interested, but I don't have a decision for you." And he said for me to think about it. I didn't want to reflexively tell him, "Yes, I want to go." And to be honest, I was kind of battling my disbelief inside of myself that I could go and make it. So I gave it a little bit of thought. And somewhere along the line, what I remember is him telling me, "Don't deselect yourself." He said, think about it, but don't deselect yourself. In other words, don't tell yourself, don't assume you can't do it. And that little message, don't deselect yourself, stuck with me my entire military career, and it stuck with me to this day. So while I didn't think I could make it into the 75th, but I really truly wanted it inside, what I chose to do was not deselect myself from the path. I chose to shoot my shot. So I told him. I didn't procrastinate. I told him. I said, sir, I want to do it. I've been thinking about it. I want to do it. This is my commitment. Got the paperwork in order. Shot my shot. Got approved to come in, much to my surprise. I was blown away. The hell? Jeremiah Sullivan from little small town, Trinity Center, California, gonna make it with some of the big dogs? Holy shit, bro. I was really amazed. Amazed that they would even offer me the opportunity. I just didn't think that highly of myself, you know? But I believe that I just push my emotions aside. And that's what I want you guys to do, is push your emotions aside. Whatever it is that you're going after, don't deselect yourself. Okay? When I got to RASP, I was nervous. I just chose not to deselect myself from the path. I got there, I went through it. I did relatively well. I was only one of a few officers that made it through. And there was actually a point where I almost quit in the middle of RASP. I knew that they were gonna dig into our background, our legal history. I knew they were gonna do a psych eval. I knew that they were gonna do a polygraph. I knew that they were gonna evaluate us and pick us apart psychologically, psychoanalyze us. I knew that they were gonna make us air out all of our dirty laundry, and I freaked out. Man, if they find out about all this other shit that I did when I'm in my youth, oh my God. I remember I called my mom, which I never really did at that time. And I said, I'm freaking out. You know, what if they find out about all these mistakes that I made back in high school? And she reminded me that I never really did anything illegal. Like, not illegal, but it's not that. Because somebody said that everybody does illegal stuff. It's just most people don't get, the ones that don't get arrested are just the ones that didn't get caught. But my point with it is that I got really nervous and almost broke and almost quit. And I didn't deselect myself. One of the ways I didn't deselect myself is I had the right people in my life. Everybody has somebody in their life that can talk some sense out of you. And I listened to her message. I remembered my mentor. And I chose to not quit, not tap, not roll out, and just leave RASP. I chose to just go in there, completely vulnerable, understand that I'm not perfect. And if I was what they wanted for the organization, great. And if I wasn't, oh well. Complete vulnerability. So on your guys' path to the next level, I'm swatting because there's fucking mosquitoes everywhere out here. I'm suffering right now for you guys. But my point with all of this shit is, whatever you want in life, man, the next level, if it's RASP, if it's SF, it's fucking SEALs, whatever it is, build the business. You think you can't do the next thing? Fucking remember, don't deselect yourself. Enjoy the day, guys. I hope this message finds you well. And that's the fucking message, man. Don't deselect yourself. Conquer all.